She was only a waitress, but her note saved a billionaire from betrayal. The billionaire never noticed the waitress at first. Men like Adrian Vale rarely did, not because they were cruel, but because their lives had trained them to see only patterns that mattered. Numbers, exits, reflections in glass, the weight of silence before a deal collapsed or succeeded. The restaurant was exclusive, tucked above the river, with dim lighting designed to make secrets feel safe. Adrian sat by the window, city lights flickering like a second stock market beneath him. Across the table sat Liana, his girlfriend of 2 years, elegant in black, smiling with practiced warmth. She was talking about the upcoming charity gala, her voice smooth, controlled. Adrian nodded at the right moments, though a faint pressure sat behind his eyes. Something had felt off all evening. Not fear. Instinct. The waitress approached quietly, mid-20s, hair tied back, uniform spotless. She placed a glass of water near Adrian's hand, then leaned in just enough to murmur, "Sir, excuse me," as if about to apologize for a mistake. Her fingers brushed the table and something thin slid beneath his palm. Adrian didn't react. Years of surviving boardroom ambushes had taught him stillness. He continued listening to Liana, who was laughing now, her hand resting lightly on his wrist. When the waitress walked away, Adrian casually folded the napkin she'd placed beside his plate. Inside, written in hurried ink, were words that cut through the air like a suppressed gunshot. "Your girlfriend sold you out. They're in position." For a fraction of a second, the world slowed. Adrian's heartbeat didn't spike. It steadied. That was worse. He glanced up, catching his reflection in the window. Calm, untouched. No man looking back would guess that in less than a minute, everything could end. He studied Liana. The way her eyes flicked briefly toward the bar, the way she asked, too casually, "Are you okay?" The way her phone lay face down, unusually silent. Adrian smiled. "Just tired," he said. "Long week." He slipped the note into his jacket, then raised his hand to summon the waiter. "We'll need a few minutes," he said, voice easy. "And could you bring another bottle of the red?" Liana frowned slightly. "Another? You said you were done." "I changed my mind." Her fingers tightened on her glass. Adrian felt it. Confirmation didn't always come as proof. Sometimes it came as pressure. As the waiter left, Adrian leaned back, scanning the room without appearing to. 2 men near the staircase, dressed too well for diners, not well enough for billionaires. 1 woman at the bar pretending to scroll, her reflection watching him instead. And beyond the glass, down on the street, a black SUV that hadn't moved since they arrived. Position indeed. Liana leaned closer, lowering her voice. "You seem distracted tonight." "Funny," Adrian replied. "I was thinking the same about you." Her smile didn't reach her eyes this time. "You're imagining things." He reached across the table and took her hand, tender, affectionate. Maybe I trusted the wrong person. For the first time, her breath caught, just slightly, but enough. The second waitress, the one with the note, passed again, slower this time. Their eyes met for half a second. Fear flickered there, and resolve. Adrian understood immediately. She wasn't part of the plan. She'd risked her job, maybe her life, to warn him. He rose smoothly. "Bathroom," he said, gesturing casually. Liana stood as well. "I'll come." He shook his head gently. "Stay. I'll be right back." Her hesitation was a mistake. Tiny, fatal. Adrian walked toward the corridor, every step measured. As soon as he turned the corner, his demeanor changed. He pulled his phone from his pocket and sent a single text. 3 words. No punctuation. "Execute fallback protocol." The response came instantly. A vibration. Understood. In the restroom, he locked himself into a stall and listened. Through the vents, faint footsteps shifted. Someone moved closer to the corridor. Someone else repositioned near the exit. Adrian adjusted his cufflinks, revealing the slim emergency blade hidden inside. He hadn't needed it in years. He'd hoped never to again. He exited the restroom calmly, washing his hands as if nothing was wrong. When he stepped back into the dining area, the waiter was pouring wine. Liana was on her phone now, pretending not to be. Adrian returned to his seat. "You know," he said lightly, lifting his glass, "I was thinking of proposing next month." Liana's head snapped up. "What?" "I even bought the ring," he continued, watching her carefully. Platinum, custom, I wanted everything perfect. Her eyes shimmered, not with love, with calculation. That's incredible, she said. Why are you telling me now? Because, Adrian said softly, I wanted to see your face. She leaned forward, reaching for him, when suddenly the restaurant's lights flickered, just once, enough to draw attention. At that same moment, the fire alarm began to wail. Panic rippled through the room. Diners stood confused, voices rising. Staff rushed to guide people toward the exits. Adrian stood immediately, placing an arm around Liana's shoulders, guiding her with the crowd. Stay close, he said. Her phone vibrated. She glanced down. Adrian felt her body tense. As they moved toward the staircase, the black-clad men shifted, blocking one exit and funneling the crowd the other way, exactly as planned, except the plan wasn't hers anymore. At the top of the stairs, the waitress with the note appeared again, her face pale. She locked eyes with Adrian and shook her head once subtly. Not safe. Adrian squeezed Liana's shoulder. I need to grab something. From the table, he said. Wait here. No, she said too quickly, grabbing his arm. Don't. That was the moment the truth stopped pretending. Adrian smiled at her sadly. You should have let me go. Before she could react, 2 security guards in plain clothes appeared behind Adrian, moving fast, controlled. The men near the staircase reached inside their jackets. The first shot never came, because Adrian Vale had already disappeared into the chaos, leaving behind a girlfriend whose betrayal had just failed, and whose allies were now exposed in a room full of witnesses, and somewhere in the smoke and sirens, the waitress realized she had just changed the fate of a billionaire and sealed her own into his world. The evacuation spilled onto the street in a wave of noise and confusion. Sirens wailed in the distance, red and blue lights painting the glass buildings in frantic pulses. Adrian Vale moved with the current but never inside it, slipping sideways, disappearing between bodies the way water finds cracks. His security detail closed in silently, forming a loose perimeter that looked accidental to anyone not trained to see it. Across the street, Liana stood frozen near the curb, phone clenched in her hand, her perfect composure finally cracking. The men she'd trusted were gone, vanished into the panic when the plan collapsed. One of them met her eyes from the edge of the crowd for a split second before turning away. Abandonment arrived fast. Adrian didn't look back. He slipped into a service alley where a nondescript sedan waited with its engine running. The back door opened before he reached it. He slid inside, and the car pulled away smoothly, merging into traffic as if nothing extraordinary had occurred. Only when the city swallowed the restaurant behind them did Adrian finally exhale. Status, he said. 2 suspects detained discreetly, his head of security replied from the front seat. 1 escaped. We're tracking. No shots fired. Media thinks it was a false alarm. And her, a pause. She's still at the scene. Adrian nodded. He expected that. Liana had always believed chaos was a tool. Tonight it had turned on her. The car turned sharply, diving into an underground garage beneath a private medical complex that doubled as a secure operations hub. As soon as the doors closed behind them, Adrian's phone buzzed again. Unknown number, she warned you. That wasn't part of their plan. He typed back quickly. Where are you? 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Unknown number hiding. I think they know I did it. Adrian stared at the screen, jaw tightening. The waitress, no, the woman, had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. People like Liana didn't forgive. They erased. Send me your location, Adrian typed. Now, a moment passed, then a pin dropped. Change route, Adrian said immediately. We're picking someone up. The driver hesitated. Sir, she saved my life, Adrian said. That makes her mine. The car reversed direction, accelerating through the maze of underground streets. Meanwhile, Liana sat in the back of a police cruiser, hands folded neatly in her lap, face calm again. She knew better than to panic. Panic made people careless, and she wasn't careless. The officer in the front glanced back. Just routine questions, ma'am. You were with Mr. Vale? Yes, she said softly. I was terrified. Everything happened so fast. Her phone buzzed again. No signal inside the car, but the message had already downloaded. From Marcus. He's gone. Abort. We'll regroup. Liana closed her eyes briefly. Rage simmered beneath the surface, cold and focused. Adrian wasn't supposed to escape, The money, the access, the leverage, it was all supposed to end tonight. Instead, he'd slipped through her fingers. She opened her eyes and smiled faintly. "Officer," she said gently, "may I make a call? I think I'm in shock." 20 minutes later, she stepped into a waiting town car, untouched by handcuffs or suspicion. Power still wrapped around her like perfume. Across town, the waitress crouched behind a dumpster in a narrow service lane, breath shallow, heart hammering so loudly she was sure it could be heard. Her name was Mira. She'd repeated it in her head like a shield since slipping the note. Mira, Mira, Mira. Afraid that if she stopped, she might disappear. Footsteps echoed somewhere nearby. Voices, male, low. She pressed herself tighter into the shadows, fingers clutching her phone. Battery at 12%. One unread message. "Adrian, I'm 2 minutes out. Stay hidden." Headlights swept across the alley mouth. Mira squeezed her eyes shut. Then the car slid in silently, door opening. "Now," a voice said urgently. She ran. Hands grabbed her, pulled her inside. The door slammed. The car surged forward just as another vehicle screeched into view behind them. "Go!" Adrian snapped. The chase lasted less than a minute. His driver knew the streets too well. One sharp turn, one sudden stop, and the pursuing car overshot, vanishing into traffic. Silence fell. Mira realized she was shaking uncontrollably. Adrian handed her a bottle of water without a word. "You okay?" he asked finally. She nodded, then shook her head. "I don't know." "That's honest," he said. "I appreciate honesty." She stared at him, really looked at him now, not the billionaire from magazines, a man with tired eyes and the calm of someone who had survived too many storms. "Why did you do it?" he asked. Mira swallowed. "Because I recognized her." "From where?" "My old job. Different city, different name." Her voice hardened. "She ruined someone I loved. I promised myself I'd never let her do it again if I had a choice." Adrian absorbed that quietly. The pieces were aligning too neatly to ignore. "She's not done," Mira said. "Tonight was supposed to be the start, not the end." "I know," Adrian replied. "That's why you're coming with me." Her eyes widened. "With you?" "You're already a target," he said gently. "Staying alone would be a mistake." The car entered a private elevator, descending deep underground. When the doors opened, Mira stepped into a world of glass, steel, and controlled silence. Screens lined the walls, displaying maps, data streams, live feeds. "This is where I keep the truth," Adrian said, "and where lies come to die." Mira hugged her arms around herself. "I don't belong here." "You do now," he said. Hours later, Liana stood in a penthouse overlooking the city, heels kicked off, wine untouched. Marcus stood across from her, pale. "He's locked down everything," Marcus said. "Accounts, access, contacts. He anticipated a breach." "Of course he did," Liana replied calmly. "That's why I chose him." Marcus hesitated. "And the girl?" Liana turned, her eyes sharp. "Find her. And if Vale interferes?" Liana smiled, slow and dangerous. "Then I'll take something he can't replace." Back in the secure facility, Mira sat alone in a quiet room, staring at her reflection in the dark glass. Everything had changed in one night. The door opened softly. Adrian stepped in. "You should sleep," he said. "I don't think I can." "That makes two of us." She hesitated, then asked the question burning inside her. "Did she ever love you?" Adrian looked away, jaw tight. "I don't know. And that's the part that hurts the most." Mira nodded. Some betrayals didn't come with answers. Only scars. Outside, the city kept breathing, unaware that a war had just shifted direction. And this time, the billionaire wasn't the one being hunted. Morning arrived without softness. The city woke like nothing had happened. Glass towers reflecting sunlight, traffic flowing, lives continuing. Beneath one of those towers, far from view, Adrian Vale stood alone in the Situation Room, watching Liana's digital shadow spread across half a dozen screens. Financial movement, burner phones, old aliases resurrected. She was careful, but care left patterns. And patterns were something Adrian understood better than anyone. Mira stood behind him, wrapped in a borrowed jacket, sleepless eyes fixed on the data. In less than 12 hours, she had gone from balancing trays to standing inside the nerve center of a man who could move markets with a sentence. She still didn't feel real. "She's pulling funds through a shell in Prague," Mira said quietly, surprising herself. Adrian glanced at her. You noticed that fast. My father taught me to follow money, she replied, before he lost everything. Adrian didn't ask how. He already knew who had likely caused that loss. She thinks I'm still reacting, he said. She always underestimated patience. One of the screens flashed. An alert. She's moving, security said. Private airstrip 40 minutes. Mira's chest tightened. She's running. No, Adrian replied. She's repositioning. He turned to Mira. She won't stop until you're silenced. Mira met his eyes. Fear was there, but so was resolve. Then don't let her. They arrived at the airstrip as dawn burned through the fog. The jet sat waiting, sleek and white, engines warming. Liana stood at the base of the stairs, phone to her ear, coat draped perfectly over her shoulders, like she was leaving for a vacation, not the aftermath of a failed assassination. She saw Adrian and ended the call. For a moment they simply looked at each other. Two people who once shared quiet mornings and late-night laughter, now separated by truth. You should have trusted me, Liana said softly. I did, Adrian replied. That was the mistake. Her gaze slid to Mira. Recognition flared, then amusement. So that's her. Mira felt her pulse race but didn't look away. You always did like saving lost things, Liana continued, even when they cut you. Adrian stepped forward. It's over. Liana laughed, a low, almost affectionate sound. You think this ends because you exposed me? I already won. She tapped her phone once. Across the tarmac, engines roared louder. A second vehicle appeared at the far gate. Adrian didn't move. No, he said calmly. You already lost. Her smile faltered. From the control tower, lights went dark. The jet's engines sputtered, then died. Security vehicles flooded the runway from both sides. Liana turned slowly, realization dawning too late. You planned this. I planned for you, Adrian said. There's a difference. Authorities moved in. Quiet, efficient, not police, something far more final. Liana's shoulders stiffened as hands closed around her arms. As she was led away, she twisted back toward Mira. Do you know what he does to people who know too much? Mira answered before Adrian could. I know what you do. Liana's eyes hardened. Then she was gone. Silence settled over the runway. Mira's knees finally weakened. Adrian caught her before she fell. It's done, he said. She shook her head against his chest. Not for me, he understood. You can disappear, he offered. New identity, anywhere. Mira pulled back, looking up at him. And live like I ran? He studied her for a long moment. Then nodded, then stay. Weeks passed, the story never broke. Markets stabilized. Liana vanished from every record that mattered. Officially, she had never existed. Mira trained, learned, grew into the world she had been dragged into. She worked beside Adrian, not beneath him. She challenged him, questioned him, reminded him of the man he'd been before betrayal taught him restraint. One evening, they returned to the same restaurant overlooking the river. Same table. Same city lights. A different waitress approached. Mira smiled at Adrian. Funny how a note can change everything. He reached across the table, taking her hand. Funny how courage does. She squeezed his fingers. I didn't do it for you. I know, he said. That's why it mattered. Outside, the city moved on, unaware that a billionaire's life had been rewritten not by power or money, but by a waitress who refused to stay silent. And for the first time in a long time, Adrian Vale wasn't watching his back. He was looking forward.